Claude Code is the best coding agent most people have ever used. It is also not free. So when a project showed up on GitHub promising you could run the exact same Claude Code in your exact same terminal for $0, it did what you would expect. 34,000 people starred it. The pitch is almost too clean. Keep Claude Code, keep the terminal, the VS Code extension, all of it. Just stop paying Anthropic and route everything through free models instead. So I actually installed it. I wired it up to a free model, I gave it real coding work, and I watched exactly what happened. The short version, it really does run. And then, on the work that actually matters, it breaks in ways nobody posts about. Let me show you. First, what is this thing actually? The project is called Free Claude Code, and the trick underneath it is genuinely clever. Normally, Claude Code talks to Anthropic's servers. This installs a tiny proxy on your own machine that sits in the middle. Claude Code thinks it is talking to Anthropic, like always. But the proxy quietly grabs every request and reroutes it to whatever model you want. 17 different providers are supported. Free tiers like Google's Gemini, Nvidia, and Grok. Cheap ones like DeepSeek, or fully local models running on your own laptop, completely offline. You can even send the big requests to one model and the small ones to another. So Claude Code's body stays exactly the same. The proxy just swaps out the brain. Hold on to that idea, because that single swap is the whole story of this video. Now, does it actually install, or is it one of those repos that dies on step 1? I went through the real setup. It is honestly fast. One command installs it. It pulls down a Python tool runner, it installs Claude Code itself if you do not have it, and it gives you two new commands. One starts the proxy server, the other launches Claude Code pointed at it. No sudo, no docker, no nonsense. You drop your free models key into a config file, you pick which model handles each tier, you start the server, and within seconds, it reports healthy. So credit where it is due. This is not vaporware. It is well built, it is open source, and it is small enough that you could actually read the code yourself. For me, it came up on the first try. So far, the promise is holding. I pointed it at Google's Gemini on the free tier and ran my first test through the proxy. And immediately, the first crack. I asked it a simple question, where Claude Code requested its top tier model, the one called Sonnet. The proxy accepted that request, smiled, and silently served back Gemini instead. Nothing on my screen said the swap happened. In fact, the menu of models it advertises to Claude Code lists them with Anthropic's own name glued on the front, so the tool genuinely believes it is talking to Claude. Then I asked the model to simply tell me what it was, and it answered, and I am quoting the real output here. Routing works via GPT-4. Sit with that. The free brain does not know it is Gemini. It thinks it is a model from a completely different company. You are not talking to Claude. You are talking to a stranger wearing Claude's name tag. There was a second thing wrong with that very first reply, and it shows up in every single response after it. Gemini does its private thinking, the scratch work, before it answers. And Claude Code is supposed to hide that in a neat collapsible block. Instead, the proxy could not translate it properly. So the model's raw inner monologue just spilled straight into the chat. Every answer came wrapped in literal thought tags, the model muttering to itself in plain view before getting to the point. On a quick question, it is ugly, but survivable. But it tells you something important. The plumbing between a model that is not Claude and a tool built only for Claude is leaky. The two were never designed to fit together, and you can see the seams. And remember, this is the easy stuff, a one-line question. We had not even given it real work yet. So let us be fair and give it something real. I asked it to write a classic little program. Fizzbuzz, the numbers 1 to 20, save it to a file, then actually run that file and show me the output. This needs real tools. It has to write to disk and it has to run a command. And genuinely, it nailed it. It created the file. The code was clean and correct. It ran it and it showed me the right output. Every fizz and buzz exactly where it should be. No drama. So I want to be honest with you because that is the whole point of this channel. For small, self-contained tasks, free Claude Code on a free model works. It is not a scam and it is not useless. If your bar is writing a quick script, you genuinely can do that for $0. But a quick script is not why anyone reaches for Claude Code. So I turned up the difficulty. Here is the real test. I asked it to build a small calculator module with proper functions, including one that has to raise an error when you divide by 0. Then write a real test suite for it with at least 5 tests. Then actually run the tests and fix anything that fails. This is the bread and butter of Claude Code. Many files, many steps. Tools chained together, the model keeping a plan in its head. And this is exactly where the brain swap starts to bite. To its credit, it did reach for real tools. It wrote the files. It set up a fresh environment. It installed the test framework. It ran things. 8 separate tool calls. But watch how it got there. Where the real Claude finishes this in about 3 clean steps. This took 11 turns and over a minute of fumbling. And then it did something the real Claude never does. In the middle of the job, with no human watching, because I was running it hands off, the model stopped and tried to ask me a question. Should it clean up the environment afterward? A reasonable thought, except there was nobody there to answer. And instead of just making the call and moving on, like Claude would, it froze. Its leaked inner monologue said it out loud. I will wait for the user to respond. I am blocked until they respond. It deadlocked itself, waiting for a reply that was never coming. That is the agent loop breaking. The free model is perfectly smart enough to write code, but it does not understand the dance of being an autonomous agent. Knowing when to decide for yourself, when to keep going, when you are on your own. Claude Code was trained around Claude's instincts. Put a different brain in the driver's seat, and it keeps reaching for a steering wheel that is not there. Now, here is the part that surprised me, and I have to play it straight. After all that fumbling, I went and checked the work myself. I opened the calculator code it wrote. It was correct. I ran its test suite with my own hands, not trusting its word for it. All 5 tests genuinely passed, including the tricky divide by 0, 1. So the output was actually fine. Let that reframe the whole thing. The problem with free Claude Code is usually not the code that comes out the other end. A good free model can write perfectly decent code. The problem is everything around the code. The wasted turns, the leaked thinking, the freezing mid-task, the not knowing what it is. You are not losing quality on the file. You are losing it on the experience, the speed, and the reliability. The very things you were paying Claude for in the first place. And then there is the bill you do not see on any invoice. Because the real price of free is rarely money. Start with your data. The free Gemini tier I used spells it out in its own terms. Your prompts may be used to improve Google's products. So every line of your private code, every secret you paste, every half-finished idea becomes training material for somebody else's model. On a paid Claude plan, your code is not training fuel. On the free tier, it quietly is. Then there is stability. Halfway through my testing, the key I was using simply expired, mid-task, and the whole thing fell over with an authentication error before recovering a minute later on its own. Free tiers are free, precisely because nobody owes you reliability. They throttle you, they rate limit you, they expire on you. When you have paid nothing, you are owed nothing. And I am not the only one hitting walls. Go read the project's own list of open problems. And the pattern is right there in public. One person's setup flatly refuses to use tools at all. The single most important thing Claude Code does. Others get cryptic 422 errors from the free models. Providers throw 403, access denied, or 429, too many requests, the moment you lean on the free tier. Someone reports it quietly using the wrong model entirely. None of this means the project is bad. It is genuinely impressive engineering. It means you are bolting a tool that expects one specific brain onto 17 different brains it was never tuned for. And the mismatches leak out as bugs. The maintainers are fighting a hard battle, honestly. But you, the user, are the one who lives inside those rough edges every single day. So, should you use it? Here is my honest verdict, and it is not all or nothing. If you are a student, a hobbyist, or you are just curious and broke, and you are doing small self contained scripts, free Claude Code is a genuinely cool way to use the tool for nothing, as long as you never paste anything private. But the moment your work is real, multi step projects, a real code base, anything you would be upset to hand to Google, the cracks I showed you stop being curiosities and start costing you hours. You came for Claude's body. You got a stranger's brain wearing its name tag. And on real work, the brain is everything. I pulled the whole setup, the best free models to try, and this exact where it breaks checklist into one free cheat sheet. Comment the word broke and I will send it straight to you. It is also linked in the description. If an honest test like this saved you a weekend, this is what I do every day in short form on Instagram and Facebook, and in full deep dives like this one here on YouTube. Follow on all three, and I will see you in the next one.